Welcome back, everybody, to Nain Shorts. It is Wednesday once again. Thank you for joining me. For those of you watching for the first time, thank you for giving me a chance. And before we get into it, once again, we are in the basement of Physique Magnifique, 387 Grand Avenue in South San Francisco. This is our home. And hopefully we'll be doing some collaboration with the owners in the areas of the gym soon to let you guys see our home beyond what you see behind me, because I know you guys are fixated on what I'm saying so hard that you didn't even notice there was a boxing ring behind. But either way, thank you for joining me, and today's conversation is really going to be just that. It's more of a conversation topic in reference to the belated mind. For those of you who have watched all the previous episodes, or at least a majority of them, you've come across or you've heard the idea, the levels of understanding. Now, in the belated mind, we don't have a ranking system. We don't have belts. We don't have any titles. We refer to older students, and by older I mean who have been with us longer, as kuya, which is like older brother, and that's all it really means. But because of that, we needed a way to evaluate ourselves and how well we understand any particular lesson. Not just overall, but even individual things. I could be very advanced in one lesson and a beginner at another. And it's the way of the learning process for each individual. So Danny created something that wasn't stagnant, that wasn't based on criteria that you had to meet, but rather, how do you check to see if you really understand what's being said? Can you go beyond what you were taught? Can you see it for more than what it was shown? And for us, those are 5 levels. It's gross motion, level 1. Level 2 would be details, the parameters that we use to refine the movements. Because again, we teach movement, less technique. Level 3 then is variation. Can you change it? Can you keep everything from the first 2 levels still intact, even though some element in the process is now altered, either by your design or by necessity, depending on what that particular lesson is at that time. And usually that's where we stay in our training. We go level 1, level 2, level 3, and at level 3, because there is a change, we go back to level 1 almost, still with all the lessons prior to it, all the details that went along with it before this new variation, but it has to change because there's now an adaptive sense that has to go on in order for you to make it work. But then you get to level 4. Level 4 we haven't talked too much about, and that's really what I want to concentrate on today. More specifically, my level 4. I still come to class and I help Rick teach some of the students, and some of the students would even consider me their instructor at this point. And it's not something that I sought out personally because I wanted to be an instructor, but I do want to be an instructor now for the sake of learning. And what does that mean? Well, for us, and what we preach to our students is that once you get to a certain level, the only way to advance beyond it is to teach, is to really check what it is that you are conveying. Are you getting across the message that's important? Not the details of the drill, not all the steps that are involved, but really the message, that thing that clicks inside of each student that makes you say, aha, I get it. Because once you hear that, once you see that in a student's eye, they move differently. All of a sudden, these gross motions are now full of detail. They automatically start variations without having to be told or guided into them. They start creating their own ideas within the very same movements. And that's when that aha moment happens. And I've had many of those over the years, but recently they have come in the form of teaching. Because we have a couple of students, not too many, but each one of them is very different in the way that they receive information. And I would be a terrible instructor if I pushed every single one of them to conform to my ideas, to what I think they should look like. Because they would have quit long ago if they can't fit to my expectations of them. So Rick, being as good an instructor as he is, I don't tell it to his face because he might get a big head, but he is actually a pretty good instructor. He's gotten me this far. Don't get me wrong, I don't give him all the credit because 50% of that was me and my efforts. And I'm not gonna sit here and say, oh, it's all him and praise. No, I'm not looking at him as this larger than life individual. He is the person. He is sharing with me his knowledge and he is doing his best to convey his point of view. But ultimately, it is my point of view that's going to get me further ahead. So there is no way that I'm going to hold him on a pedestal because one day I will disagree with him. Not because I want to, not because I want to rebel, not because I want to, dig a knife in his back or hurt him in any way, but it's because we're two different people. I have my own ideas and he has his. And so do the students. And each one of them is going to bring something different to the table, a new challenge on how to teach them, on how to convey this information. Because if we continue doing the same thing over and over again and expect them to eventually get it, we're going to lose students. So it becomes very important for me as an instructor to really take into account who it is I'm talking to. How do they understand things? What do they know and don't know? And Rick broke it down as 3 separate elements, 3 elements that are key to being a good instructor, or at least in what we do. And it could help you out. I don't know. Try it, see what happens. Those 3 elements are what you know, what the student knows, and what you know about that particular lesson. Now, those things can't be completely rigid. First of all, let's talk about the first one. You should know what you know already. That shouldn't make any real change in the overall idea of things. However, what you should also know with the knowledge that you have is that there could be multiple ways of conveying the same thing. And that is very important because if we're talking about FMA in this particular case, it is well known for its ability to adapt. That's one of the biggest things that draws people to FMA, its versatility. It can do this, it can do that, it can do so many different things. But it has to be up here too if that's what we're trying to convey to the students. If that's how we want the students to be, then we need to exemplify that as an instructor, not just with our movements, but with our thoughts, with how we give out the things that we know. So that's the first part. The second part is what does the student know? Now, this could be as simple as they have no martial arts background whatsoever, clean slate. And you can say that's all that's needed, but the fact of the matter is their personality, their individual experiences outside of the martial arts world will greatly affect the way that they understand that information, the way they take that stuff in. It's going to change. What if the person is a young girl, meek, in front of a computer a lot, very scholastically driven, not very open, not very confident. Small body, just walks around with shoulders shrugged, scared of the world. How she takes information is going to be different from, say, a bodybuilder who's strong, who's confident, who, even if that bodybuilder wasn't, their physique holds them up, and that's the first impression you get. Oh, this person is confident because they're walking with their shoulders because, well, there's too much muscle holding everything up. But that's also another student that we have. Then you have somebody somewhere in the middle, a bit older. Somebody who grew up with a bit of a learning disability, who can't really process information the same way everyone has and has struggled, who has some martial arts background, but because of life, it just kind of fell to the wayside. And now they want to get back into something. They're very dedicated, very strong-willed, and want to impress, which, like I said earlier about Rick and him being my instructor, trying to impress your instructor, it doesn't always work out. You may not have the qualities that the instructor is looking for, and if your instructor is looking for specific qualities, then I don't think he's a very good instructor, in my opinion. I want to share. I want to give this information, and like I said at the beginning, this is more of a selfish endeavor because I want to learn. From each one of these students, I've picked up something completely new. From the shy girl, I've learned how to convey more of a feeling, so then they can understand through their movements what it should feel like. The details, the physical stuff, that's going to come later, but if they can understand why they're doing what they're doing in that moment, then they're more likely to be able to do it outside of class, where it counts. We can refine the motions later. For the guy that wants to refine everything right then and there and go hard, because unfortunately guys have a tendency to go hard no matter what, no matter how many times you tell him to slow down. If you can get him to understand the importance of relaxing through things, of being able to breathe through the process, of really understanding the simplicity of what it is they're trying to accomplish, versus trying to do all these fancy moves and make them look dramatic, then he's going to be the better off for it. Then you have a jock, someone who's used to just muscling through things, doing things by force, over time, repetition. They get it, they're muscular, they're strong. But you need a sense of softness when it comes to your ideas. They're not rigid. A fight is chaotic. A fight does not follow any rules. You hear it all the time. If you find yourself in a fair fight, your tactics suck. I don't know who said it, but I like that quote because it's true. Especially in FMA, we don't talk about fair fights. We talk about use everything and anything available to you. We learn how to swing a stick, but in reality, in the bladed mind, we learn emotion, so it doesn't matter what's in your hand. But if that idea cannot be conveyed to the student, to 3 different people, 3 different backgrounds, different mentalities, then as an instructor, I have failed. Or more importantly, I have a lot left to learn. Because for us, level 4 is a doorway to your level 5, where you create your own way of doing things, your own way of teaching things, your own ideas, and you cultivate those concepts based on everything that you were given. But once they cross level 4, they are yours. You are no longer a representative of the bladed mind as much as you are a representative of yourself. And the way that Danny taught me, the way that he explained to me the bladed mind, I'm here to get a product. That product is his teachings, Rick's teachings, their way. But it needs to be filtered and become my way. And that's the door. That's level 4. And in order to continuously grow your level 5, that door needs to be open all the time. If you want to envision it, it should become an arc. No more doors. Just information coming through and becoming yours, being part of your level 5, growing into your own way of things. Just recently we had a class with one of the students who, for some time, had been struggling with the idea of flow. And flow based on the bladed mind way of explaining it. Watch that episode a few episodes ago. I go into greater detail about the difference between flow, adaptability, and what we think is flow. But anyway, she couldn't move from one angle to the other. She couldn't mix in her own strikes. She couldn't find her own rhythm. Everything was stagnant. It was difficult for her to think things through to their logical conclusion. So instead, we focused on one idea, which is actually just the opposite of her previous lesson the week before. And we let her work on that until she got that concept. And the concept itself was really innocuous. It wasn't that important. But what it did was it got her to start thinking beyond the one dimension of any one of her movements. Because if you can think of a movement, say our angle 1, okay? If I were to ask somebody, in this angle 1, how many times did I hit you? Most people would say, oh, you hit me 1 time. But if you think about it as a motion, well, I hit you here with the puño, here with the tip, and on the way back, I hit you with the tip again and the puño. Now, that's with a stick in my hand. The same motion without a stick. I can slap you, I can poke you, I can grab you, I can palm, I can hit you with my knuckles, I can do a hammer strike, I can come up with an elbow, I can come down with an elbow. Same movement, same mechanics, same angle. But depending on the situation, it can change. Depending on what is needed at that moment, it should change. And these are the ideas that we want to convey to our students to allow them to start developing their levels and eventually get to their level 4. Teaching. It's another tool for learning. Teaching well means you're learning better. And that's the reason why I strive and why I continuously get these lessons on how to teach more effectively. Because it means that I have to learn what I know that much deeper, that much clearer, that I can convey it 3 to 4 different ways to 4 different minds, and yet they come out understanding the same concept, but their own way. And if I have no way of tying the information from what they do or they understand to what I gave them, then I'm failing somewhere. Because regardless of who you are, regardless of how diligent of a student you are, or how lazy of a student you are, no matter how good the lesson is, the student is going to take it however they're going to take it. And if you can understand that, then you can direct a student's learning so much better and get them to understand the things that you need them to understand so they can get to the next level. Again, it was just a quick conversation about why I teach and the importance behind it. Well, I hope it was enlightening to somebody, if not just entertaining to the rest of you. Thank you again for joining me on here, Nain Shorts. Till the next one. It's 3, 2, 1, cut!